Young, so let's talk about city politics today.
City politics.
Yeah, Los Angeles city politics. It has been on the newspapers for a lot of wrong reasons. Corruption. And
too little people representing too many people.
And some racist remarks too.
Racist remarks. I mean, that's where the controvery came from, right?
Yes, I think 4 councilmen were involved.
And it turns out there are other minority leaders
yes.
who kind of band together and talk about other minorities. Mm-hmm. And there's some other like.
But I understand that Kevin DeLeon is running again, though.
Really?
Even though he amidst all this. So
really?
Yeah, that's another story.
How's the public opinion on him? I guess it's good.
I guess he survived the recall. I understand.
Huh.
And right now, our Korean American councilman today, the news came out that John Lee from CD12,
right?
He's also involved in some ethical issues that happened back in 2017, I believe.
Okay.
Mitchell Englander, his former boss and former city councilman for District 12, he actually pleaded guilty, in bribery scheme, I believe.
So there's a chance that this implication it could snowball into something further.
Yeah, I think so. And to say the least, John Lee, I think he is in
deep stuff.
He's in trouble. He's in trouble.
Like big trouble.
But he said that he did nothing wrong. He didn't know. So let's see what happens. I think.
Well, I don't think no one ever goes out there and says, "Well, I did something wrong. I'm very sorry."
Well, let's talk about Koreatown. Koreatown is in CD10, right? 10th
Yes, sir.
district.
Yes, sir.
And Koreatown.
They didn't change any of that, right?
No.
Okay.
No. Koreatown is the entire Koreatown for the first time is in District 10. So we want to talk about District 10 and the city of Los Angeles with Assemblyman Reggie Jones-Sawyer. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great.
How are you?
Both of you.
Thank you for joining us. LA, but it's red.
Assemblyman for the 57th district. That includes
Correct.
South LA, right?
South LA, Koreatown, and not Koreatown, but little parts of Koreatown and Skid Row.
And Skid Row.
I didn't have Skid Row before.
So you know a lot about homeless issue that has been going on
very
for
well versed
a long
on
time.
Homelessness right now, more so than I ever had before.
Do you think that's the biggest issue right now in CD10 and citywide?
So I usually make about 50 to 100 calls a day to residents in CD10. That comes up almost every time.
You've been to the Skid Row area, right? That area.
Oh yes.
I mean they sell a lot of drugs there. There's literally like drug dealers everywhere in there.
So the thing about Skid Row, as my staff started looking, I started delving into it. There's a lot of money to rectify the situation. There are a lot of resources to rectify the situation, a lot of programming. But what doesn't seem to be done is it's not coordinated. And so the county is responsible for programs and wraparound services. The city's supposed to build the affordable housing and the units to be able to get. We need to bring them together. So I did a bill to actually have a homeless czar, have somebody in charge of it on a countywide level to bring all those resources, the state, federal, and local. Look, you tax yourselves for both the county. There was a proposition done, and it was a city proposition done. Yeah. So we definitely have the will to do it. Normally, we don't have the money to even get it started. We have a lot of money. We just need somebody to be accountable for it.
Yeah.
Accountability, I think, is what's lacking right now in this space. Once we have that, then we can actually not only bring the resources together like they did in Houston and other places, but we can finally start saying, look, you are in charge. Not you, but you know what I mean? You are in charge.
You don't want me in charge.
And after a year, we can then evaluate how effective you are. And if you're not working out, we can move you out. Or if you are working out and you have done some good things and you've reduced the number, we give you more money, more resources, and more programs to be able to do more. Right now, if I asked you who's in charge of homelessness right now?
It's supposed to be LASA, right?
Supposed to be LASA, but LASA will tell you it's the city. The city will tell you it's the state.
They all
the state will tell you it's
each
the
other,
federal.
right?
Federal will tell you it's the county, and it's just that. You really don't know who's in charge. There's one person in charge of the city, a mayor. One person in charge of the state, the governor. One person in charge of the country, the president.
Yeah, the buck stops there, right? They have to.
Somebody
has to take
Maybe we need to follow the money.
And I think
did with all that money.
And I think former Mayor Eric Garcetti, because since so many homeless came out during his term, I think he's taking a lot of blame for that, Eric Garcetti. But I just don't think it's just him. Even the lawsuit back in early 2000s, because the lawsuit was ACLU, that you can't take homeless people's personal stuff, you can't confiscate it. And because of the lawsuit, they settled. It didn't go all the way up to U.S. Supreme Court. So they settled to unless there's like shelters, they can't just remove these homeless people on the streets. And I think that's where it all started from. But I just don't see any realistic solution, because we spent billions of dollars, like Triple H, and you have these homeless shelter units costing $830,000 per unit. It's just ridiculous. I think the money is not spent efficiently. I think that's what
my question is kind of like drugs. It seems like drugs have become basically non-criminal anymore. It's decriminalized almost. It's basically decriminalized in Portland, and even LA. I don't see any of that enforcement going, but I think it plays a large part in homelessness and the people that are out there. A lot of them happen to be suffering from drug addiction as well.
One of the misnomers is all of that is legal. The only if you want to call it drug that we legalized was cannabis. And that was
cannabis, you're right.
All the others are still on the table. You can be arrested for it. You now where we're not working well in is how do we get people into programs and services so we can start to get them off. The problem with people that are on drugs is it's not like you get a shot, like you get vaccinated. It's it could take 8 times before we can get you off of drugs. And we need to stay on top of those individuals. Look, I had an idea of creating an army of social workers, mental health professionals, psychiatrists, drug counselors that are coming out of college that may have a lot of debt from the UCs or the CSUs. And they work in this field for 5 years. We create our own little Peace Corps for homelessness, and then we wipe out their college debt. Think about their college debt, how big that is. Think about if they then serve the community to do that kind of work, and then they just stay on top of those individuals. Because if you make it uneasy for them to be on the street and have them get into housing, into social programs, into getting jobs, but most important, and be able to get off of drugs, that's where we got to start. But the ultimate thing we got to start with is prevention programs. I have a $5 billion bond to help with that. And so if we can get to opioids and fentanyl so we can actually stop people from getting on drugs. Because it doesn't make any sense till we wait till they get on drugs, die from it.
Prevent it, from the get-go.
Or out on their streets for a long time. If we could stop it from, think about it, if we could stop it from the beginning and make sure we save those lives. Because once somebody dies from an overdose, there's nothing you can do. Yes, you can go ahead and prosecute those individuals, but they may be back on the street by other people coming in. Let's cut off the supply. If we cut off think about it, if we were able to cut off the supply, which we have not put in fully for decades when it comes to opioids especially, we have not put in the resources to be able to do that. And we have a myriad of different programs that have been very successful at it, but they've been underfunded. So that is one place where I'm working to get $5 billion to put into that. Hopefully we can get it done next year so that we can get this started.
Sometimes I wonder whether it's by design, these drug problems that we have, because what I've been hearing is like it comes through the southern border a lot. Fentanyl, meth.
You think immigration has something to do with it?
We have, I heard that during the Biden administration, like almost 6 to 7 million illegal immigrants have been coming over here, and a lot of drugs. And we had homeless people here actually as our guest. And what they said was, we asked them, right, what's the reason for you guys being homeless? And every single one of them said it was meth, right?
It's interesting because you and I think alike. I was going to ask exactly that same question.
Yeah. Sometimes I have that
He's
moment
saying
with him
like
too,
80% of homeless people are on meth. And meth seems to be the sneaky little drug.
It seems like that's the one.
First, people function well with meth, right? They use it for work and then they start losing their job and it slowly consumes your life. But the thing is that it's so readily available now. I mean, it's so cheap on the streets. Like I said, they sell it right in the middle of Skid Row,
There's no enforcement.
There's no enforcement. So you have these homeless guys going there becoming meth addicts.
We need to enforce more. Opioids. Are just, or even worse. And they're really hidden because they're in
opioids are legal, right?
They're in people's medicine cabinet, yes. Yeah. And every day, and they're but you can't overuse it and you can't abuse it.
That's where I heard a lot
of the things that
started,
our governor Gavin Newsom is doing that I do applaud. He's sending National Guard to the border to make sure we can hopefully stop the flow of drugs coming in. If we have more of a concerted effort in that, and I think he's absolutely brilliant in being able to send troops down to stop the flow. Because you're right. If we stop again, let's stop the supply. If we can stop the supply, then we don't have to worry about the demand.
Because it seems like once you're hooked, it's extremely difficult to get out of that. What I heard, from people who got really hooked on drugs, especially meth and fentanyl. So I think right off the bat we have to like cut it off. But I don't know. I mean, it's been like 10 years, right? These homeless issue that has become the forefront issue in the city of Los Angeles. But I feel like it's getting worse and
It's
worse
only
by
growing,
the
is
years.
it?
Yeah. Well,
do you think it's getting better?
Well, it really started, as far as homelessness in general, it really started when Reagan cut down and cut out all the mental health facilities. And at one point, and I kid you not, at one point, LA County jails had the largest mental health facility in the country. Think about that. The jails had the largest, because that's what we were doing. We were criminalizing these individuals who you see, unfortunately, out on the street, naked, not well kept, screaming at the world. Obviously, there's something wrong with them, and we're not providing them a place for them to go. And I think right now we have two bills that I think are going through. One's for a bond to start rebuilding that infrastructure that Governor Newsom is pushing in next year. But the other thing is we need to just looking at care courts. I said care.
Care courts.
Okay, I'm going to say that again. Care courts. That's where I think the problem we've been having about getting people off the street. We don't want to criminalize them. If you ask any individual in Los Angeles, they do not want to criminalize homelessness.
Oh, me neither. I don't think so.
We genuinely want to be able to. When I say wrap around, I mean we may have to hug them, take them somewhere.
Yeah.
I wish I had a name for the place that they need to go to. We can't call it an asylum, can't call it an institution, don't want to call it jail. I was going to call it a happy place.
Happy camp.
Happy camp. And we're going to recreate something that's never been done before.
Like a community?
It's almost like community.
But it should have like a family name, right? Like some kind of family, because that's what they've been saying, right?
If you put resort at the end of it, I think
they said if they had like families love and support, they would not have been homeless. So it seems like that's the
shit. Okay,
right?
yeah, there's a pastor that was in here. He was saying the same
really?
thing,
Yes.
that there's an emptiness, there's the void. It's not, the drug addiction can't be fixed, or they can't become unhomeless. They have to fill that void. And what he was saying with God,
And so he set up.
that was his approach.
So I think
to
his
it.
method kind of works, right? Because he set
Well,
up
I
a
mean,
farm in Victorville,
and
then
they're
he
working.
bring
They're-
these homeless people like
away
30,
out of their condition.
Yeah, 40.
Away.
Yeah.
And what he was saying, what he was arguing is because they're out of the city,
Yeah.
the temptation is not near the city, so
But we heard
they
there's
can
plenty of
do
meth
farming.
labs in that area as well. So we're like, okay, never mind.
So because there's in a way sequestered,
Yeah.
they can kind of sober up.
I've been to, as chair of public safety, I've been to more prisons. I've been to more prisons than I ever went to in my entire life. And I've talked to more people incarcerated. And one, they talk about not having a good family structure. They either were foster care, they either had family members that were domestic violence, on drugs, just violence in gangs. That structure almost created that school to prison pipeline, and so they were traumatized. And if you at 7 or 8 or 9, you've seen a dead body, you've seen somebody killed in front of you, there's something that goes on in your brain.
Traumatic.
And I don't think you know it. I don't think anyone knows
They
it.
don't know it.
Yeah.
What happened with, I'll give an example, what happened with Sandy Hook, that was so traumatic. They sent a battalion of mental health professionals. That happens in my district almost every day. And there's not one mental health facility.
That's kind of sad.
Well, I hear that
There's no one there to grab those kids in elementary school. We eviscerated that whole medical report. There aren't any nurses in schools anymore, like it was when we went to school.
You're
there aren't
right.
any health professionals there like it used to be. And so these kids have to figure this out on their own. And unfortunately, as they get older, they resort to self-medicating and substance abuse and other things, or just get into a life of crime. We got to stop that. That's why I also put in close to $60 million to nonprofits to make sure that they can handle that. These are groups that actually are in the inner city that are dealing with this on a day-to-day level, that are talking to these kids and providing them a space where they can actually work. The other thing I'm working on is we've been able to make sure people don't recidivate by finding them jobs and making sure they get off of drugs and everything. So there's some empty prisons now. And so we went from 160,000 in prison down to 90, and none of them recidivated. The real reason is they're not recommitting the crimes. So we save about, on 2 prisons, $230 million, and you don't have to pay extra money. Okay. That's money we've already budgeted. So this is a savings. Think about it. We never do a return on investment in government. No. We just keep spending and spending and spending your money.
That's what they're good at.
We keep raising and raising and raising your taxes. This is where we don't. And I want to plow that back in to nonprofits. Saturday Night Light basketball, some Boys and Girls Clubs, some programs that these kids can go to, Boys and Girls Clubs, all of that, so that they have a place where they don't have to be out in the street with that element. And then the key to this, we're going to do accountability measures. We're going to actually measure the effectiveness. Does crime go down? The number of kids that are on drugs, did that go down? The number of people that commit homicides and smash and grabs, do that go down? And then we're gonna quantify that, and then say that's how much money we've saved. Won't you give us more money of that? Because now that's how a business is, isn't it? Mm-hmm. That's our
so like a business model.
It's a kind of a business model, and programs that aren't working. We give them a little chance first. We're not that cold. We give them a chance to get better. But if it doesn't work, we're going to have to move on and move that resources to
something else.
To a program that actually works and is benefiting the community.
And there are many of those programs too that's not working, but it's still going on because it's government.
It's just hard to close those businesses.
Mm-hmm. I have a question. The no bail thing, the no bail policy or something that's apparently gone into effect yesterday or something like that. Some of my friends, around me, they're concerned. They're saying that it's going to make things worse. I completely understand that someone who gets arrested for a petty crime, you throw them in jail, they're going to learn something worse. They're going to learn how to make meth. I don't know. They're going to figure out something worse. And a lot of people, they come out even worse than they were before. So I understand it's just throwing anyone in prison is not a good idea. But at the same time, because of certain statures and limits that we put on how we can arrest and keep a person for certain misdemeanors or certain crimes, I think it's had kind of the opposite effect. Where do you sit on this, the no bail policy, as well as,
So from my understanding of what I eventually voted on and put through on the no bail, is that you now have an individual judge look at you individually. So you may be someone that may be hooked on drugs, but you have a job. And if we can put an ankle bracelet on you, make sure you can still go to work, we can track where you are, plus drug test you at the end of the week to make sure you're off of drugs. That gives you a chance. That's when there's a no bail for you. But if this is your 7th time, it looks like you're not off of drugs and you're just not cooperating,
just playing around,
then we probably need to hold you a little longer. I'm not saying you're a drug addict, but I'm just saying we need to look at the individual and not just do a blanket way of doing it. The reason for the whole no bail concept, we started looking at the data, and you started to see people who had money and had the ability to bail themselves out, even though they may have been pretty serious criminals, were out. And that's drug dealers, that's murderers, there's rapists. They were getting out.
Can I say O.J. Simpson fits in that category too?
And while poor people who stole some bread or just did it because they just needed money, they ended up staying in jail for 7 days, lose their job. Now their plight is even worse than it was before.
Yeah.
You need somebody to actually look at you and say, what is the best remedy? 1, to make you stop doing it forever and don't go back again. But 2, what will work best for you? But also, I don't know if you're married now, but if you're married, you got kids.
Yeah.
I'm pulling you out and throwing you into that system when you may be
Right.
truly sorry for it and you want to
And
make
it messes up
amends.
the kids too.
Yeah.
It messes up
So
everything.
how do we figure out a way you can still go to work?
That's a very good idea.
You
yeah,
can
like, you know,
you can still be with your family. Maybe put regulations where you can't go out on the weekend. I mean, we
House
can,
arrest.
house arrest. Just drink beer at home or
You know,
something
you can't.
like that.
No, you can't do that on parole and probation and stuff,
No,
man.
I understand.
don't know what you
Whenever
did.
an assemblyman is talking to you or me, I'm not actually talking to you. It seems like he got that. Are you talking to me? You know, he got that reaction a lot. You know,
So it's really about looking at the individual and making a determination. That's what the whole
it's a
no
very
bail
realistic
concept.
approach. I feel. You know,
Yeah.
probably we should have implemented this method a long time ago. I guess.
And we probably should have called it back to. It's all about labeling. You're in that business, you know. It's what you call it sometimes, and maybe we shouldn't have called it no cash bail. We should have called it a more humane bail or something like that.
Well, I hope they don't use AI in any of that. You know,
You can't.
Are you worried about?
like
You
like
can't
you know,
use
like
AI.
imagine like resumes. Right now, it's all AI. So even recruiters, when they look at resumes, it's just kind of like they get filtered through.
I've seen. So when it comes to using facial recognition, when it first came out, I think about 4 years ago, they wanted to bring it out and have it being used by law enforcement.
Yeah.
And so the ACLU went and took pictures of a group of us and put it through the AI.
And then,
I came up as a rapist with arms.
are you sure?
Yeah.
Wow.
How about Asians? Were there like Asian pictures that you guys used too?
Phil Ting, Assemblymember Phil Ting, came up as a felon. It seemed like all the people of a different hue.
But we're talking about the flaw of AI, right?
That's the flaw of AI,
Right.
the flaw of moving on this stuff.
So I guess
too
one
fast.
ethnic group created this. Maybe they should, you know.
And so that I worry about that.
Okay.
Because that could someone could be in jail because they gave the appearance that they looked like somebody when they really weren't.
Assemblyman, are you worried about the crime rate going on in Los Angeles? You know, the smash and grab. You know, we see this all the time on the TV news, and things are getting worse and worse. I don't see things are like turning around. They say that the politicians, they kept promising, we're gonna bring safety, less homelessness, but it's all getting worse. What is your opinion on it? Why do you think the crime seems to not calm down? These smash and grabs that we see on
the
TV.
Smash and grabs. I did a bill, Assembly Bill 1065, the Organized Retail Theft Bill, and in it not only can you charge someone that's the ringleader with felony, and they can either get three years in jail, or we can charge them with federal corruption crime, which is 20 years in prison. So this whole fallacy that you can't charge them with that is not true. When we first started it was on a very limited basis with the CHP and with the California Attorney General's office. They've returned over $30 million worth of stolen merchandise, and they've filed about over 1,000 different charges against individuals.
Rob Bonta's office.
At Rob Bonta's office. After that, when
Funny
that was done under Brown, and now it was so successful that Governor Newsom then infused another $250 million 2 years ago, and now he's infused another $200 million because that back to smash and grab, that is the solution. We need to start publishing more and more of the individuals who are caught, punished, and going to jail. And the amount of merchandise that have been returned back to that is not being shown.
Yeah. So there are returns. It doesn't just get sold off of eBay or something.
No. Well, that's where we bust them at eBay.
Oh, eBay, they're trying to sell it, right?
And at the retail market, those illegal retail markets.
Or used merchandise and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay,
We're
it's like
bust-
pawn shops.
Yeah, we're going through there, and we're arresting them right now. And then there's an extra infusion of cash that have been put into LA. But the point I'm making is the model is my model.
All right.
Okay. Great.
I'm with your model.
That's great.
And that's and then the good part of it is those who are on the smash and grab, who may be on who were doing it because they saw something on the internet and just jumped in because they're poor. We still have a mechanism to deal with them.
Okay.
If they're on drugs or they need some education, need to get a job, we're going to make them accountable, but we're also going to give them an opportunity to make their lives better.
That's great.
Most of them seems to be like they're in their teens or early 20s. No,
And it's kind of like
that's the thing. It's a weird thing. Like when I hear people say that they're worried because there's smash and grabs are happening everywhere. They're not. It's not every Louis Vuitton store and Gucci store.
But it's organized. I think that's why it brings more concern. It's organized and it's kind of like a crowd motivated thing.
That means that it's at this level, not at a homeless level, not as somebody just going in and grabbing some gum and leaving. That when it's organized retail theft, they're not going into the 7-Elevens and smashing and grabbing. They're going and stealing things that are over $900 threshold.
Like 900 Hermes. I mean, you got like $10,000 Birkin bags. I mean, these.
I told someone there's probably keychains over $1,000.
Yeah, some of them are. Believe it or not.
So this is high tech. This is felony at a rate that we have never seen. Plus, we think there's not that many people, but we need to crack down on them. And the more we crack down on them, I think we'll start to see that go down.
Doesn't that fit in the category of organized crime?
It's kind of like social media, right? Don't they gather?
That's why we can do the federal, because it's like organized.
Okay, federal.
It's RICO.
It's RICO case. It could be a RICO, right?
There you go.
And a lot to do with social media. They gather through social media. That's what
And that is the part that just amazes me. Whether it's that, whether it's when they do the wheelies in the middle of the street. That's also done by social media.
Social media.
They're able to come together, do their thing, and then take off.
You just see all these black tire marks at every intersection.
It used to be just flash mob dance, but now they're doing flash mob.
So
other
do
stuff,
we need to upgrade our law enforcement with the technology?
It seems like so. Yeah, it seems like that's
look
necessary.
at that, because you'll find out before they will.
Yeah.
You'll find out before they will.
Do you blame Fast and Furious? No, I mean seriously though. I mean,
I think
this took Fast and Furious to another level. I think Fast and Furious was at the baby level. This is at a whole different.
Yeah, because of the outrage. I think Fast and Furious 11 was supposed to be shot here, 10, in LA, and the constituents were protesting against it. Do not come here and shoot that movie here. Yeah, we don't want you guys,
but
creating this.
I mean, Hollywood is a very, very big influence when it comes to even propaganda. You know what I mean?
Well, movies are.
It's a propaganda machine.
Or even just what goes on with the media. If all you see is smash and grab,
we see it all the time.
Even though, like where I have a, I know it sounds like I do nothing but bills, but I have another bill that's looking at organized retail theft. So we don't know if it was shrinkage. We don't know if it's stolen from employees, customers. Or it's just lost items. And so we have an independent group looking at what is actually being stolen, how it's being stolen, which I think is really important, so we can get to the crux of what the problem is. It may not all be smash and grab, like the industry is saying, but it may also be, I heard an interesting, Costco, for example, came out and said they have unbelievable profits. And people are wondering, Costco. They don't have smash and grab.
They don't have smash and grab.
They don't have,
I never seen one.
Do you know what their opinion is?
They don't have Costco cards.
Oh, is that what it is? $50 per year?
Kinda. You can't get in unless somebody's at the door. Now they're not tackling anybody, but there's a guard. It's almost like a guard at the beginning before you even get in. You've got to show some kind of ID.
Oh, and then they let you in.
Costco doesn't do self-checking. Think about the number of Cokes and Coca-Colas and other items that somehow don't quite make it through on the...
Okay, you're right. I've never seen a case in Costco, right? You never heard it, right? We heard Walgreens, Target,
and people don't run it through the first person in the front to try to steal. And besides, I mean, I'm being facetious, but if you try to steal one item, it's usually this big, and then try to throw it in the shopping cart and then throw it in the van. It's not like a Louis Vuitton purse, which is
you could put like 10 purses on each arm. Just I scored.
Do you think the $950 rule that has a lot to do with it. You know, a lot of people also blame George Gascon, LA County.
Not the Louis Vuitton stuff, but like the Mervyn's and
attorney, the
Ross
DA.
shoplifting. I hear from like the workers every time I'm buying something, they're going, "Oh, there's so many shoplifters." They do
It's
this.
almost become a knee-jerk reaction for us. To blame somebody
Right.
like him.
One, we need to report it. We absolutely need to have the retailers report it so that we can come up with a strategy to prevent it. If we don't know about it, then we who do law enforcement laws or who are involved in law enforcement, we can't come up with a strategy to prevent it, to slow it down, stop it altogether. To tell us after the fact is wrong. That's like my whole idea about how you deal with most of the crimes here is you stop it at the beginning, before it even starts. And so I'm hoping that when this audit comes out, that we'll start actually figuring out how to deal with this.
When does it come out, the audit?
Unfortunately, it's not going to come out till 2025.
2025.
The beginning of 2025.
That's when you're out of office,
Yeah.
right?
So hopefully you'll enjoy this. My partner in justice on this is a Republican. Assembly member Juan Alanis.
Wow.
Okay, so you're working
So
together
it's a
with
Republican.
It's a bipartisan.
Wow.
effort. Now he believes it's done. It was most of the crime is because of organized retail theft. I believe the shrinking is something else. So we're going to let this independent group tell us what it really
how
is.
they come up with.
I
That's
mean, this
great.
is collaboration.
Yeah.
Great.
We don't do that enough in government. We don't do that enough out there. And I think that's if we're really going to solve public safety problems, we got to put down, whether you're Black Lives Matter or law enforcement, we need to put down our rhetoric
Differences aside.
and start talking about what do we agree on.
This is great
And
news.
there's a lot we agree on.
Uh-huh.
I mean,
Seems
there's
like
a
so.
lot we agree on.
Yeah, definitely.
That's what I think too. You know, and this is really great news to come together to solve, a problem that has been hurting the people.
Yes.
So, yes.
I have a question. Yeah. Have you ever been to Seoul, Korea?
You've been
Actually,
to?
I have.
Oh, you
When-
did?
when-
When was it?
2012, I went.
10 years
And,
ago? 11 years
10,
ago.
10
MB
years
was
ago,
president, I think.
when I first got elected, I will say one of the scariest places I ever be was at the DMZ.
Oh, you went there.
It was
Yeah.
like
It's
it
eerie,
was like
right?
yeah. It was like, hey, how you got to put your hands down? Don't wave.
And those guys
Don't
are
move.
serious. Yeah.
This is not
This is-
a
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
This is pretty serious
Yeah.
business. I said, yeah, but
The reason I
DMZ.
ask is
if you just say hi, maybe you can melt
yeah.
it off.
No,
Then it could have been solved a long time ago.
they're gonna get shot over there if they do that. No. But the reason I ask is because when you hear of Korea, every time someone commits a crime, they get busted, 100%, because there's so many cameras in the city. Everywhere you go, there are CCTV cameras, and the cops are able to know what car they rode in, this and that, and where they got off and where they did all that. But America's a little bit different. America's a little bit more freedom oriented. I think we have certain laws that prevent cameras. I mean, is cameras something that LA City or maybe California as a whole might be looking at to make sure that crime doesn't happen? I mean,
CCTVs.
I mean, yeah, we have
all
people
over.
monitoring us on social media to see what we say. If it goes against the guidelines, we have AI picking that up. Why not have cameras? I mean, that's no brainer, no?
There is serious discussion
Oh, there are.
about using cameras, working with the private sector on their buildings who now have, because a lot of them already have cameras, and having them connect with law enforcement so that if something happens, we can immediately tap into their system to see what's going on. And then our response time can be cut down dramatically.
Kind of a loophole using the private sector, so it's like the government isn't
But it's,
exactly.
it's
That's
collaborating again.
That's a great idea.
It's a way, because they're going to they have their own private business. They can do whatever. They're going to film anyway. So why can't we take advantage of that? If from the public sector side, especially on the public safety side, to be able to work with all the businesses to create almost a field where we can actually see what's going on. Because at the end of the day, we've noticed if people think we can see you,
It's an
opposite effect. People may not actually do the crime if they know
That's true.
they're going to be videotaped.
Yeah.
That's why you see when they're in the store for smash and grab, they're all covered because they know.
They know. Right.
But
know
now
they're
if you
being
have
filmed.
cameras on each block, tracing each where they're running to, what
kind of
car they got
there
into.
you go.
Exactly.
Which way they went.
I mean, not just smash and grabs. That's not like, that happens like once or every, once a month maximum I've ever seen. But
So,
it's just any crime.
Yeah. Assemblyman, what motivated you to become a politician? Because don't you have a science background? You studied at Harvard and
I went to SC and Harvard. And
So it was
the
a different
reason I went
background.
to SC and Harvard is because of my uncle. My uncle was one of the Little Rock Nine, one of the 9 kids that integrated Central High School in 1957. And so my uncle was beaten. He was kicked. He thought the N-word was his middle name. They had hundreds of Klansmen, white racists, were trying to keep him from getting into high school. Think
Which
about it,
area
say,
was this at?
Little Rock, Arkansas.
Wow.
So Eisenhower, this is how far back it goes. Eisenhower had to send the 101st Airborne to protect him to go to high school every day because his life was in danger.
Eisenhower.
Eisenhower.
But that was pretty cool, though.
And so ever since I was growing up, I was always told the reason you don't have any problems going to any school you want, being able to get the education you have, is because of the sacrifices that your uncle did. And when I say he was kicked and beaten and spit on and everything, I mean he went through hell so that I did not have to go through hell. And so as I retired from the city of LA after 25 years, that's when I decided I would run for office. But the real reason is because the women in my family, my grandmother, when I was going to SC, I was having a really good time as an undergrad, like a really good time. Really good time.
Can you elaborate
I was
on
on
that?
academic probation, kicked out of school. Good time.
That's
Okay, you had a really good time. You had a
You're a
really
man.
good time. We would like to hear more of that. We
And so
want
you
to
have
hear that story.
You would have to sit at the foot of the oldest person, which is my grandmother, and she would have a ladle in her hand. And if it was in her left hand, that means she wanted to talk. She switched to the right
she's
hand.
right-handed.
That means the beatings would start. And so I'm sitting there listening to her telling me all these stories I grew up with about the Klan and everything. And then I just said, because she had never graduated from high school. So I said, you don't know what you're talking about. I go to USC. We're national champions. I'm in the fraternity. I know what I'm doing. It switched from the left hand to the right hand. She basically told me, look, when you were a baby, because I was born in 57, the Klan called the house and basically told me, get your son out of school or your grandson will never make it to school.
Wow.
That grandson was you. You have absolutely no right to give up this education. Ever since then, I was on Dean's List, and I've never looked back. I'm standing on the shoulders of people who sacrificed everything. So I have to give back. I had to go run for office. I have to do something to make things better. I love the city of LA. I mean, I have a retirement. I had a great career as assistant deputy mayor, everything. The city of LA, retired as director of real estate. I have prerequisites, all the skills I think needed to bring trust back to the city of LA, to be able to build housing at a reasonable rate so that we can house everybody we can. And so I didn't want all those skills left behind. As my grandmother said, I have no right to just sit on my butt at home on my retirement. I need to get back to the city of LA, a city that I love. But I think the most important thing is to bring back trust. Look, we had some characters when I left the city of LA, from Nate Holden to I mean, they were, but
Wesson.
but nobody thought.
Wesson was
Nate Holden was before. Wesson,
yeah.
Yes.
And I go back to Cunningham, to even Tom Bradley. And
we're from the old school city
school.
council.
And
that's when I moved to LA.
People had respect.
Yeah, exactly.
And those individuals went out every day and actually did this. Talked to people. Got back, and sometimes people didn't like you, and they would tell you about it. If they didn't like what your vote, they would tell you about it. But you responded. You had a dialogue.
Conversing.
You didn't hide from them. You actually could tell them and give a cogent answer to why you did something. I think that's what's missing. That's why people are angry at city council. When you go to council meetings, people yelling because we're not interacting as elected officials. We're not interacting with the public anymore like we used to. I don't know if it's because of COVID. I don't know if it's because of social media. There's something about this that you can't, like, we've never met before. I'm pretty sure whatever opinion you had from me now, you have a different opinion now, and hopefully it's better. But you do have you know what I'm saying,
right?
You have
more personal.
I mean,
at least you had conversations, right?
Yeah.
So you get closer. I mean, that's science almost.
I feel exactly what you're saying. It's like when you're calling tech support or any kind of a like the gas company even, you're like talking to a stupid little like recording, and then you barely get to talk to a person, and then you get shut down, and you can't do anything about it. So I think people feel like they're not being heard. People have a voice, they have opinions. Even on the subject of education, I mean, there's some certain things where we're moving towards progressively, but some people aren't ready to do that. There are issues that are coming up all over right now, right? But I think people just do not feel like they're being heard. I mean, is this something that...
And even think about what you just said about whether you're for transgender, whether you're for critical race theory, whatever, the people who say they're against it, they say it this way. They don't say they're against transgender. They don't say they're against civil rights or African Americans having liberties. They're saying that parents should be heard.
Yeah, parents should be heard.
Think about what they're saying.
Yeah.
Think about what they're screaming.
Right.
Yeah.
Think about when they attacked it. They're saying, I want to be heard. And so somehow we're not communicating effectively or very well to get people draw in and understand, or at least give them the feeling that you understand what they're saying. And when they don't, you're married, sometimes you're explaining something to your wife and then your voice gets louder. What I'm trying to tell you is...
Now it's the other way around.
Is it?
I'm sorry, I'll make more money.
Right. I think decades ago it was more personable, but probably after the rise of cell phones, smartphone, people, it became more closer with their cell phone
too,
and more distance from regular constituents to these elected officials that we see in the city council. In John Ferraro,
someone said that
City
to
Hall.
me the other day about...
They don't answer their phones. I have to text them and wait when they're ready.
Really?
Yeah. Can you believe that?
I can tell you this. One of our colleague, she has to write down, to order a piece of pizza.
Okay.
When she calls the pizza joint. So we never did that. We just called, right? But they said they have to
right.
make it right. They pepperoni, like green onion, black olive. So
Just on half.
That was kind of like a culture shock for me to hear that. That you have to actually write it down on an A4 paper to order a pizza.
Maybe there was like a lot of options or something, but yeah, I think
know,
communication. I think you brought up a very important point. People want to be heard. People want to know that someone truly cares about their problems and is going to actually try to do something about it, not just say, okay, thank you for leaving a message. We'll get to it when we can.
Right.
Yeah, and I think even in the CD10 race, the politician who gives their constituents that kind of feeling would be the winner, right? Wouldn't you agree, sir?
That's why I'm running.
What motivated you to run for CD10 this time around?
This is I went to LA High, Mount Vernon. Now it's called Johnny Cochran Junior High School.
Johnny Cochran. He is a great lawyer. I think Johnny Cochran is he's a tremendous lawyer. But anyway.
I rode my bike on Arlington when it used to be Arlington doubles. It used to be a hump, and you go up.
This is your hood. I mean, this is your area.
And I just see a need because we haven't had representation in quite some time. I think people need to pick who they want to represent them, and then two, we really got to get back to where I remember people would not like the mayor. They may not like the council, but they love their council person. Their council person would do a bang-up job. And we need to get back to where that personal relationship is. And I think that's when government ran well. The other thing is I don't understand how, I know we have First Amendment rights, but when I went to the city council my old boss was Mayor Reardon. I was an assistant deputy mayor under
Richard Reardon,
under
the
Richard
businessman.
Reardon. A rich white
right?
Republican mayor, yes.
Who has a restaurant in downtown LA, right?
And as I was getting ready to give my speech, somebody started yelling at the African American council members, calling the N-word out loud.
Oh, really?
And the best thing that the guards could do, or the LAPD could do, was go, shh, could you keep it quiet? Back in my day, that person would have been out.
It would have been,
Would have been out. And there's he has a First Amendment right to yell at us and call us, disrupt the meeting and everything. And I think that's wrong. I think that we need to bring back some decorum.
Yeah.
We need to be able to have strict rules on how
They should kick people out if they talk that way.
I think we should bring back the
things.
beat down.
No,
Come on.
The old-fashioned beat down.
that's how we got in trouble. in the first
That's true. See, you're much better than I. Thank you for leading me in the right direction.
Right on the spot. You're fixing a constituent,
No beat downs.
So how come so many city hall corruption happening? The past decade, we hear like Mitchell Englander, we heard Jose Huizar, even former City 10 councilman Mark Ridley Thomas. Of course, his problem was in the county days. Mm-hmm. And who else am I missing? Nuri Martinez, the racism remarks. Why are these things happening? So that's why I think the distrust has been building up. So people are not believing City Hall. They don't put too much trust in the in city politics because of these happenings. It's as a reporter, it's kind of tiring for me to even write about it anymore. That's where it's at.
So we're in a world of transparency, and as I once told law enforcement, because of body cameras, we actually see what you do. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We didn't know you did it that way. And so in some ways it's jarring how things are kind of done. What did they say? How sausage is made? You really don't know how sausage is made. And so I said, but we have the same thing. Now that we're a little more transparent than we ever were before, people can hear us, see us. There's laws that we can't discuss things out of the sight of the public. We have to talk within. I think it's become glaring to people how some things have been done in the past, and it became a tradition. Now that we have transparency, hopefully, not only do we need for you to see us and let us know we need to do something a little bit different, or to at least lodge your complaints, but also tell us when we do something right.
Are we talking about body cams for the councilman?
I'm talking about the fact that
more transparency.
If you think about each of those incidents, these are the major ones.
Yeah.
When you talk about the council members that were caught on tape in a casino.
Oh, it was
videotape.
They have a videotape.
When you talk about racist comments made that were recorded.
These are some recorded records, right? That we have.
These are
cameras. Everything.
It's not just he say, she say. It's like it's there,
Right.
Tap their cards.
You can watch it.
Tap their phones.
They were exchanging chips, right?
Once you start seeing stuff that was not. If we start to police ourselves, is what I'm saying. We start saying transparency. When I worked for the city, if you said something, when it comes to like sexual harassment, if you said something that offended someone, that person had the ability to tell you immediately that was
inappropriate,
offensive, inappropriate, or whatever.
They can't do that now.
And then you need to stop. If you didn't stop, then you get reported.
Yes.
One, you learn. Because what I may think is not offensive, that person is very offensive too.
Could be.
And so we don't. I don't think we in politics we don't chastise each other enough, or we don't grab somebody and say, "I think you ought to rethink what you're getting ready to do." Or when you're in private with one another and someone says something, we need to say something.
Yeah.
We don't say enough, because I've been in those
Because I think
private rooms where-
we don't say enough because we are afraid to offend. I think
You don't want to be disliked.
Right,
You don't
yeah,
want to
and
be
then,
the odd
right,
person.
I think
You don't want to
that's
be
where it's bullied.
bullied.
Because you want to be liked by people, and you worry whether that person would take
It's
it
like
in a
high
negative-
school all over again, dude.
Yeah, but
Right? Isn't that where?
Yeah, but I didn't. I learned a lot from people who corrected me.
Okay,
put it that
so
way.
we should
I
be
learned
be
a
doing
lot.
that. You're right.
It was jarring when they said it, and when I thought about it, I felt bad that I did it.
Mhm, okay.
But I'm so glad that they corrected me.
But you obviously take things constructively. A lot of people,
That's a bit-
especially when they're of power, they can't do that. Established men.
Do they go the
people
other
voted
way?
In
How
office.
dare he say
How
that
dare
to me?
he talk to
Man,
me like
I'm gonna
that?
get back to him, right?
You know what I do for a living? You know
that's-
who I am.
Is that you, John? But
I've seen a lot of those.
I can, but I
I
can
think
see
in
that
some
your
ways you
attitude
should
was
be
very
thankful
constructive.
That I look at it that if someone goes out of their way to let me know there's a different way to do something or a different way to say something, it's because they like me.
Mhm, I understand.
They
what
care
you're
about me, and they want me to be a better person.
Mhm.
So I look at it that way,
Mhm.
not that they're getting into my business. They should stay out of my business. I look at them as trying to make me a better person.
Mhm. What are the other issues that we should pay attention as constituents of Council District 10?
So we've got to. So one of the things that I don't think people really understand, Council District 10 really is not an African American district population wise.
It's Hispanic, right?
Yes.
Majority is.
It's majority on a census tract. It's majority Latino, like 40-something%. When you look at the voting demographics, it's 30% African American, 30% Latino, and 30% white Korean.
Okay.
So we're a very, very mixed
You're right.
community. And I like to say, in some ways, we're representative of Los Angeles. And so
It is.
we
Symbol.
many
Very
ways.
in
symbolic.
many ways, we're a microcosm of the entire city.
Yes.
And so people who run for the seat or in the seat have to be able to transcend beyond their own skin and their own upbringing, but also to be able to understand other communities and to be able to be helpful for that. I learned that in the Assembly District, it's 57. The 57th Assembly District is 87% Latino, and that I've won overwhelmingly 6 times.
Great.
And it's
Yeah.
because
it shows that you were transcended.
it's because I listen. So when my constituents say, the last time I ran against a Latino candidate in 2020, and I lost in the primary because I really didn't listen to the constituents.
Okay.
When I went back and listened to them, I won by 15%.
In the general?
In the general.
So you did a lot of listening in
I did
between.
a lot of listening.
Within that
so
6-month span.
It happened during George Floyd. So I thought
Oh,
George Floyd,
okay.
Black
I
Lives
understand,
Matter,
I understand.
everything was something really important to Latinos. Not that it wasn't important to them. It's just that food on the table, making sure you have a living space, and just bread and butter issues mattered more. And then we also had COVID. And so it was about getting medical equipment and vaccinations. That's what 87% of my district cared about. And I made sure they got that. And that's how I was able to win. Again, it's forget about what the political pundits say, forget about what your polling says. Talk to the people and figure out what they want.
The people, LA's got to be a trickier kind of demographic because of the diversity that LA represents. I mean, you just mentioned is Hispanic. Everyone has a different culture. Everyone has kind of a different way of how we perceive things. Some things are more important to this type of culture. For example, for an immigrant community, they're more important. Matters are to put their roots on the ground. To live for the other generation, education. But it must be very difficult. I mean, like. How are you approaching this? So you could kind of mix all these cultures together.
Well, I usually tell people, especially first-time elected officials, quit going into the valleys and the hills and the valleys because you'll get whiplash like you wouldn't believe. Be right in the middle all the time, and so understand that for Latinos, yes, there are people who are concerned about the border, but understand those people that may be concerned about the border may also be concerned about their family members coming over, being able to, or have family members that are here, being able to get citizenship, legal citizenship is probably really important to them. All of that is important. And so this build a wall and, all of that could be a problem. Or when you hear a president or a presidential candidate say it's the China flu and then just go after all API people. And, you got to understand that that one is going into the bowels of hell to come up with a political agenda. Don't fall for those real quick.
Right.
Try to stay right in the middle. Become the statesperson. Become the balance. And ultimately, people will gravitate towards you because it's like a parent. You gravitate to your parent because that's stability.
Base. Yeah, you're right. Do you support the idea of increasing the districts in the city of Los Angeles?
Absolutely.
You do?
Absolutely. I know some people say, let's study it, this and that. Look, it is hard. I mean, I'm looking at how many I have to serve now, a $250,000.
Too much, right?
It's
$250,000 is a lot.
It's a lot. It really is.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think we can do it without raising your taxes. You'd cut the salaries of the council people because they were covering less, or I'm for covering half. But I think they'll be able to get to more people to talk to them and to be able to
any number you have in mind? Like 23,
I said double.
30? Oh, double.
I was
double.
at 30.
Oh, you were at 30.
At 30 and cut the salary in half.
A lot of the current ones probably might not like it, right?
So that's why they keep saying.
But they do get paid more than congressmen and senators. I mean, aren't they the highest paid?
They are the highest
elected
paid
official in the world, probably.
Or they're gonna need to pay for the gas.
Yeah, well, it's.
I pay so much for gas today.
Other than the president, I think in the United States they're the highest paid.
Yeah, so it's.
They get paid a lot, dude.
They do get paid a lot, and free gas and free.
Car. No wonder.
That's what I heard. Free parking space. They get a lot of. What do you call it?
So the cars.
So how do I run?
So the cars and all that is because they service a large area and they need people to drive them around. That's why they have such a big staff. So there's reasons for that.
250,000.
But we need to come up with a methodology where it makes sense.
Or like more assistance for you guys.
Yeah.
Would you like to talk about your competitors? Like, for instance, Grace Yu, or who's the Heather Hutt? Would you what are their flaws? Would you like to mention?
Go for the smear.
Or I mean, I'm at least better than These are the ones that we want to listen to.
Stop! Why? What are you doing to him?
All I can say is I'm running for the seat, not against anybody.
Okay.
You're so awesome. Wow.
You must have been practicing these kind of questions already, to have such a great answer for it.
Okay.
What are the major endorsements you got so far?
The speaker, the
House Speaker.
The
Assembly
speakers, both of them. Probably the majority of the Assembly, some senators, the AG, Tony Thurman, who's now running for governor at the School of Public Instruction. So I'm doing pretty good. And a plethora of labor endorsement from my union, SEIU 721, 2015, Teamsters. I mean, if you name a union, I have an endorsement out of that. Out of every food group. I'm extremely blessed and honored to have that.
Well, I'm with you on what you represented today.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Any comments about Gavin Newsom's new pick of U.S. Senator?
Except
she's
him.
Smart. She's smart. I think it was a smart move for him.
But she's out of state, right? Isn't she from Maryland?
She still has home here.
Okay.
Have family here, and so it's not going to be hard for her to represent us. And she's got to spend time back there anyway, because that's the
Maxine
drudgery.
represented Inglewood.
That's the drudgery of the job. You got to fly back and forth. And that 6-hour plane ride is a monster.
Got it. Why don't you advertise your website and anybody who wants to support your campaign, to the camera and
So hi camera. It's so I'm Reggie Jones-Sawyer, Assembly member running for Council District 10. My website is www.reginaldjones.com. Reggie4LA, F-O-R, Reggie4LA.com.
Reggie4LA.com.
Okay.
Thank you so much
Thank you
for
very
joining
much,
us.
sir, for
You're
stopping
welcome.
by. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you for joining us on Culture Shock.
Bye.